Welcome to America's Heroes Group.
Welcome back to America's Heroes Group, our roundtable Mental Health Matters with our partner, NAMI Contra Costa. Happy New Year. It's Saturday, January 7th, 2023. January is Cervical Cancer Awareness and National Blood Donor Month. Our host is Kelley. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith. Our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scouts Arnold Productions. And I'm Sean Claiborne, the co-host, Army National Guard veteran. And we have our partner on the line, Gigi Crowder. She is the executive director of NAMI Contra Costa in California. NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, an advocacy group founded by family members of people with mental illness. And she's brought us a panelist, Reverend Wanda Johnson. You might be familiar with her and her story. She's a founder of the Oscar Grant Foundation. And the movie Fruitvale Station is about Reverend Johnson's son, Oscar Grant. We're going to talk about the importance of working with youth to support mental health and well-being through sports and other healthy outlets. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having us again.
Reverend,
thank you so much. I'm doing wonderful as well.
Reverend Johnson, you are an inspiration to me as to listening to your story and also being familiar with the film. To give people a kind of a trip down memory lane. I believe this came out in 2013 when Fruitvale Station came out?
Yes, it was.
Okay. That was a story that told, or a movie that told the story of Oscar Grant, your son, who was wrongfully shot by police in Oakland in 1989. And this story kind of was something that was very timely and something that we've heard a lot across different communities, and particularly people of color. But that story provided opportunity. It reminds me of Romans 8:28. The story provided opportunity because something great came out of it. You took that horrible event and made something out of that event. You created this foundation in his memory. But then also even the movie itself launched the careers of Michael B. Jordan, who played Oscar Grant, and Octavia Spencer, who played you in the movie.
That is correct.
Wow. So tell us about the foundation. And then also give us a kind of an idea of the mission of what you do through the Oscar Grant Foundation.
So the Oscar Grant Foundation was founded after Oscar was killed, and we was working to bridge the gap between law enforcement and people of color, brown and black, because we are targeted at a higher rate. And we have implemented some programs, and one of the programs that we don't talk about enough, and we really have raised our voices, dealing with the mental health. After my son's friends watched him on that platform, they watched him plead for his life. They watched him be shot and tell the officer, "You shot me." They were traumatized after that. And many people don't realize we often used to use the term PTSD with military people. But people don't realize that when you see something tragic as that, it changes your life forever. And I watched my son's friends, his brothers, as what I call them, go through the mental health challenges that they faced after the death of my son. And so we're really working a lot more with Gigi, trying to help bring that awareness to our communities. And so we do life after loss sessions, what we call it, by way of Zoom, discussing the effects of losing a loved one and living after that. For many people, some people don't recover after they lose a loved one, especially in that type of magnitude. And I know for me, it was very, very hard for me, facing all kind of different emotions after the loss of my son. So we have a tutoring program where we tutor our youth. We have an AAU basketball team. We have a scholarship program. So our activities are targeted, the majority of them, to our youth, but realizing that as adults, too, we need that as well. And so we have our Healing Hurt and Hearts program, where we work to bring families from all over the country. In February, we're bringing mothers from all over the country to the Oakland, California area, where we host a weekend gala where Gigi will be one of the facilitators speaking to the mothers regarding mental health and living after the loss of their child being, brutally killed and murdered by those who are hired to protect and serve. And so during that Saturday, we'll have Gigi, as she is one of the facilitators, and then that evening we'll have a gala, a black tie affair, colors gold and blue, that will encourage the crowd, that would help fundraise for our upcoming year to be able to give the scholarships out, to be able to fund the AAU basketball team and all the other programs that we have.
Wow.
Thank you.
So how challenging is that to tie all these things together, and are you finding it that people are kind of understanding the mission, understanding what needs to change in the communities to make our communities safer and more equitable?
Well, one of the things we want to do is take away the stigma where the system has set up in place that at the age of 6 or 7 years old, they'll determine if people of color are going to go into prison. And so trying to provide the resources that our youth need and the outlets that they need will help to reverse the way the system already is depicting those that will go to prison. And so I think it has, for us in the foundation, it has become necessary for us to do that because we've seen too many lives unnecessarily killed. And so bringing the education as well to them regarding police stops and regarding that they're created to do more than what our society says that they could do, and having these outlets for them to do it, we're seeing the success of our youth change that stigma that has been said and go to college and graduate from college and be successful as they come out of college. And so we're determined to keep doing that and to provide even greater help to our communities to ensure that our youth have the access that they need to be successful in the society.
And how do you attack PTSD directly? I heard you talk about giving education and knowledge, and also I hear you saying that basically having a different vision, shifting a person's vision away from what is basically being shaped in your mind from your environment.
So after Oscar was killed, the problem that we really don't talk about is our young men and our young women, what they see. And being able to identify with someone who can relate to them helps them to be able to express more how they're feeling. If, for example, if one of Oscar's friends, and they did go to a counselor at one time, went to that counselor, and that counselor was able to somewhat identify with them of the traumatic situation that they faced, we believe that it would have helped them more. And because they weren't having the people that they could identify with, they chose other measures to try to soothe the hurt and the pain that they was going through. From that, the mental health portion of it, the mental sickness actually opened up in a couple of my nephews. So now they are facing the mental challenges that they did not face before until after Oscar's death. And so being able to have Gigi as the expert, she come in and share and to utilize the resources that NAMI provides has helped educate and helped us to share with others the importance of getting mental health checks, the importance of being able to reach someone you can identify, the importance of being able to have the support groups that NAMI has, and to be able to get on those support groups and to be able to have that outlet to express the very things that you're going through or that that family member is going through.
And how to get people, particularly kids, to recognize, because a lot of times their minds are still developing. They haven't really, they might think they know everything, but they don't. How do you get them to recognize that they might need to get counseling, they might need to get help, they might need to participate in some of the programs that you provide through the Oscar Grant Foundation?
So one of the things that we do is we have an AAU basketball team. And on that team, on one of the teams, there was a young man who was contemplating suicide. And so we thought it was very, very important to talk about that, to remind our youth that they have an outlet. They can come to any of us. They could text any of us, and that we would support them in whatever way that we can to make sure that they have the help, the support, not the judgment, not the looked upon, but the help and the support and the love that they need when they feel that they are in some kind of crisis. And so I have one youth that I deal with that actually is my grandson, and his father faces a mental health challenge, and so I have the opportunity to work with him and to share with them during those challenging times on the different things that he could do and what not to do during those times, because each person case is differently, and each person has to be handled differently when they're facing the mental health challenge that they may be facing. So, for instance, you may need someone to come very passionate, very loving. You know, I may need someone to come with a little stronger voice, right? And so getting to know the people that you're dealing with is a plus, you know. So for us to have our youth, for us to have them write essays about how they're feeling, write essays about their goals in life, to be able to journal and write those things, and then we read them, and then we try to provide the support that we need for them to be successful in this life.
And I think the partnership and Reverend Wanda Johnson being able to recognize that addressing mental health in a program that's based out of Oakland would be significant, looking at the statistics, especially for young children who, as she said earlier, they're determined by their reading levels, and she's in a district where the reading levels for, in particular, Black and Brown youth are so low that partnering with us in the work we do with the program we call I'm a Winner, where we do positive affirmations. She was ahead of the game of understanding how significant it would be for her to partner, and started reaching out to me prior to her becoming a team member of NAMI. She asked me to participate with the organization, which, was dear to my heart as an Oakland native. They have a motto that we are all Oscar granted, because statistically, young Black men in particular have more harsh outcomes. Mm-hmm. It had been a very fruitful partnership with us sharing our subject matter expertise, her having the tragic lived experience and us having the subject matter expertise on how to support them and be there guiding. But she's done some dynamic work with pulling together trainings and supporting impacted families across the age lifespan holistically.
Mm-hmm. How does someone reach out? Because does the Oscar Grant Foundation, can you help people across the country, or is this mostly in the California area?
No, they could reach out, and we would provide them with a resource. If NAMI is in that area, we would give them the information that they can go to NAMI. Because we recognize that we can't help everybody all over the world, but we will do whatever we can to provide the resources for them to be able to get the support in whatever area they are in.
And then can you give us the contact information real quick? The website?
The website is www.oscargrantfoundation.org.
And then, so when give us a success story, and so that so the audience can really get an understanding of the impact and how you can transform someone who is really on a detrimental path, a path that's not a place they want to really go down.
So when Oscar was killed, and one of the young men that was on the platform started trying to self-medicating off of whatever substance you may think of. And it was really, really getting very bad. The individual had to end up going into being committed for 5150, I believe it is, being observed for 72 hours. I think he had to end up staying there, contemplating, and thinking about taking, his own life. We began to talk to this individual and support this individual and have meetings, not with just him, but some of the other people that were on the platform, providing that outlet for them to talk, providing that outlet for him to cry, providing that outlet for him to know that trauma is real and that it can take you into those spaces. And so from that, getting that help and being that support system to him and walking him through the process of where he can go and how there was alternative outlets that he can utilize. From that, he got the treatment that he needed, and he was able to successfully get a job. And it was funny because the job that he was offered was almost related to where he was at when Oscar was killed. And so he called me, and he was like, should I take it? I said, you take the job, and you're going to be okay. And you just call your auntie if you have any issues, if you need to talk, any time of the night. And he took it, and he's been successful at doing and working since then. So we are definitely grateful for that.
Wow. And then, so when you went through this experience, you lost your son, and then you're hoping that, that it's not going to be the worst that it could possibly be, and ends up being the worst that it could possibly be, because you hope that his life could be salvaged, but unfortunately he passes. How did you stay strong through that when something like that will just wreck a person's psyche, wreck a person's ability to really continue in this? And when you lose your son, you lose your child, how did you get the strength to continue and not just do that, but to get stronger and make something beautiful out of something that was so tragic and horrible?
I think part of the way that I got stronger was the prayers of the community. When I was at my lowest place for a while, because I am the one who instructed Oscar to take BART, and I had to get past that first, because I was saying, if I would have just let him drove, maybe he would be here. And I had to get work on my mind, my heart, letting me know that it wasn't my fault of what happened to him. That's what I had to really tackle first. And so being able to overcome the guilt of feeling like if I wouldn't have allowed him to take part, if I wouldn't have told him to take part, he might have still been here. I had to work through that first. And then as I began to pray and cry and just receive the prayers from others and the encouragement from others, that began to help me to lift up some. But then when I began to see it happening all over and nothing was being really done, no one was being held accountable, it began to say and show me that it's bigger than just Oscar. Yes, I am Oscar, but so many young men and women was losing their lives at the hand of those that was hired to protect and serve, began to really propel my family to begin to work with the families and to begin to not only work with the families who lost their loved ones through police violence, but whatever kind of tragedy, community violence is just as hard. And oftentimes could be even harder because we have the person maybe who did the act is still walking around oftentimes and not found or identified who it was. And so my family, after me going through this healing process and seeing that there is work to be done, there is someone who has to speak up and say something about the tragedy of losing a son, but to help somebody else who is going through the very things that I'm going through, the different cycles of grief, and even dealing with mothers who wasn't able to pull themselves out of that cycle and end up passing away, a year or two later from the heartbreak of it. And if I didn't have my mother and the support of friends and families, that could have very well been me. But through prayer, through having that support from my mother and the community is what helped me to stand up and get out of that bed and begin to push forward to work to bring awareness to what it was happening and what is happening in our society.
There was the 2013 film Fruitvale Station, directed by Ryan Coogler. Stars Octavia Spencer, Michael B. Jordan. Octavia Spencer plays the role of Reverend Wanda Johnson. Michael B. Jordan plays the role of her son, Oscar Grant. Check that movie out if you haven't seen it. It's a very good movie, very well directed, very well shot, and has really good cinematography. Actually, I found too as well. I mean, it was a very touching story, and a story that you should show your kids and have a conversation around. And as tragic as it was, and I regret that I'm talking to a mother who lost her son, because I wish Oscar Grant was here bringing you joy. But the thing that I'm proud of and I feel hopeful for was the fact that through that painful experience, you were able to create something that's powerful and bigger than all of us.
Absolutely, turning that pain into a purpose. And that purpose now is to bring awareness to these types of situations and to be able to walk the families through this process. And it's not an easy process. And it takes compassion, it takes love, it takes being able to, for me to step really outside of me and to help them to get the healing that they need to be able to stand up and ensure that their son or daughter's name is not forgotten.
Romans 8:28. Reverend Wanda Johnson, thank you for your time. Thank you, Gigi, for bringing her to our show.
No problem. Thanks for having us.